here we are on our brand new show. For those of you who are on TikTok, you've been with me for a while. For those of you who are on Spreaker, you guys been with me a while. And for my Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all that other stuff, you guys have been with, but we have a brand new group, and I'm really honored to be a part of it. I really, truly am. We are airing on KGRA Digital Broadcasting as well. And that's pretty exciting. Bill is he's a great guy. He's working hard. He works very hard. He's the producer behind the scenes, airing it on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and wherever else. And then, of course, Spreaker and TikTok. So let me just say this first of all, before we get into any type of conversation. I'm Bishop James Long, and I've been in the paranormal field quite some time. Actually, the first time that I investigated the paranormal was 35 years ago. 35 years ago. God, I'm old. But for those of you who are watching this on Facebook or YouTube or StreamYard or Twitch or Twitter, if you're watching it there, you're going to notice that I'm going to be speaking to you here. But you'll also notice that I'll be coming right over here and chatting with the folks right here. And that's because I'm running this on a different computer. I'm running on TikTok as well. I have a very active community on TikTok. You're more than welcome to come on over there. We have 600,000 followers, so come on over and chat with us. We have a lot of videos that we do, and you can Bishop James Long is the TikTok name. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are put on the fake TikTok accounts. Folks, I only have one. I only have one TikTok account. So, and it's Bishop James Long. That's it. All right. So anyway, I want to really show my appreciation for all you guys being here. So thank you so much. And, I talked a little bit about 35 years ago is when I investigated my very first haunted location. 35 years ago. And believe it or not, that was Waverly Hills, because I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And 25 minutes from Waverly Hills. And 35 years ago, it was abandoned. I mean, the owner was pretty much, he left it unfortunately, to people to go up there and tear it up. And he didn't care. I mean, he didn't care if you went up there and investigated or did whatever you want to do. He did not care. He wanted you to go in and trash it. And they did, because he wanted to basically tear it down. And that's unfortunate because of the history of Waverly Hills. Sanatorium. I don't know if you guys, if you're in the paranormal, you're very familiar, I'm sure. But I went there. And let me just tell you a story, and then I'll give you a background for me, because there's and I ask that you please humor me, if you will. For those of you who have been following me for a while, I like to give an introduction of who I am to the folks who may not know, because there's a lot of brand new listeners and viewers who have no idea who I am, and so I'd like to at least give that introduction. So I'll tell you the story first. I went with a buddy of mine, and he said, let's go to Waverly Hills. And I had known about it. I knew it was creepy, but I thought, okay, why not? I was a teenager. Why not? Duh. So I did. And we went up to Waverly Hills. And when you went into it, there was a big room, huge opening room. And we walked in, and there was a wheelchair on its side. And it was an old rusty wheelchair. And the wheels wouldn't even move. I mean, it was really, really rusty. We looked around, there was paper everywhere and file cabinets, and then we began to hear a whimper. Like someone was crying. And that was intimidating. We were thinking at first that there was maybe a child, because it sounded like a child. And we were thinking, oh my gosh, a child came up here, snuck up here, and they got lost or whatever. So that's what we were thinking. We were never ever thinking spirit or ghost, never. And so we got closer to the stairway, and it got louder, and we could definitely tell it was a child. So we walked up the stairs, and we walked up to, I don't know if it was the second or third floor. I just can't remember. And when we got to the floor, there was the opening. We saw the opening where it's where they placed people for the airway. It was wide open. And the crying got louder, and it would echo down the halls. And if you've ever been to Waverly Hills, it's really, really echoes. And so we kept going closer down the hall. We said, "Are you okay? What's your name? Who are you?" And it just kept getting louder and louder. And we got closer and closer to where the crying came from. And it was in a bathroom. And we thought, oh my gosh, there's a child here, and they got lost or they're afraid. So we got closer to we went into the bathroom, and there were some stalls, and I finally found out where this crying came from. And we opened the door to one of the stalls, nothing. And we got a little bit closer to where the crying was really loud. And as I got closer, it sounded like someone had taken, and it wasn't one of those metal doors. It sounded like someone had taken that door that I had just opened and slammed it as hard as they could with all of their might. I mean, we're talking Arnold Schwarzenegger slamming. And they slammed it so, and this was a stall that I just checked. And they slammed it. It shook the entire, I mean, it shook everything. And of course, then I was not prepared. I was not an exorcist. I was like, okay, that was uncomfortable. That was not good. So once it slammed, we ran. I mean, I was a big boy then. And let me tell you something, this big boy ran. I ran as fast as I could. I said this before, I don't think I touched one step going down the stairs. I jumped and I was out of there. And then when we finally got down the stairs where we saw that wheelchair from the very beginning, the wheel, and this was an old rusty wheelchair. The wheel was moving like this. And we hear creak, because it was like creak. No. We got out of that place so fast. And that was my first experience as far as a paranormal investigator. And that was intense. That was very, very intense. Okay, so for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Bishop James Long, and yes, I was in Ghost Adventures. I did Ghost Adventures, the Bobby Mackey's episodes. I did 3 episodes with Ghost Adventures. I am friends with Zach, and I do speak to Zach, and so I understand that there are pros and cons. There are people that are fans or not fans of Ghost Adventures, and that's fine. But I will tell you that my experience at Bobby Mackey's was very, very intense. And it was what's interesting, what I tell people about that is what made Bobby Mackey's intense was not so much because of what the demonic did, because as an exorcist, I was trained to be aware of the parlor tricks that a demonic will play. And so I was not intimidated, but rather I was worried for Zach, Nick at that time, and Aaron, because this was the first time that I had ever had a TV crew follow me during the minor rite of exorcism. So for those of you who don't know, I knew I wanted to be a priest when I was 5 years old. There was no question. I remember in kindergarten telling my mom, she said, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I pointed at the priest and I said, I want to do what he does. And I knew from a very early childhood that that's what I wanted to do. Didn't know why. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And then at age 9, I began studying books on demonology. And I'll answer your questions I promise you, I'll answer your questions on the paranormal in just a second. But I began to answer I would find as many books as I possibly could on demonology. I would read, and I would constantly read over and over and over. And again, I don't know why. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. But when I was a teenager, I had a quite a terrible dream. Very, very horrible dream. And I still occasionally will have it, but it was pretty severe. And I talk about this in my book, Through the Eyes of an Exorcist. And so what I was dreaming that I was sleeping, and over at the cot, I lived, of course, I was a teenager, but I liked the basement. The basement was finished, but at the same time, it was cold, and I don't like the heat, so I like the basement because I had the whole basement basically to myself. And so I was sleeping in my room, and I remember waking up in my dream, and I remember looking over at this figure that was lying on the cot. He was laying right there on the cot, and I walked over to this figure that was sleeping, the eyes closed, and he had really long nails. He had a white gown on, golden sandals. He had the crown of thorns. He was bleeding, and his skin was almost like a shark color, like a grayish, darkish color. And I reached down for the hand, and I saw the wounds. They were not on the palm, they were more on the wrist. And I reached down to grab this thing's hand because I really kind of thought it was Christ. And he opened his eyes, and the eyes were solid red. I mean, it was complete solid red. And that gave chills. And I obviously backed up. And his exact words were, "What the hell are you looking at?" And he was sitting there. And so I backed up. I grabbed my crucifix, my first communion crucifix that was off the wall. I still have that crucifix. I don't have it with me here. It's in my other room. But I grabbed the crucifix and I immediately just held it up against him. That was my first instinct because I knew obviously it wasn't Christ. And he stood up. He took his left hand. He crushed it. And as he crushed it, his hands began to bleed, but then it began to turn to ash, like a black ash, and the ash was falling on the ground. And he gave me this smirk, and his words were, "Is that supposed to hurt me? I died on the stupid A thing." I knew at that point that this was not something that this was far more advanced. This was far more dangerous. This was far more scary than I've ever experienced in my life. So I immediately ran upstairs, told my mom. We called the priest. The parish priest came down and he began praying something. I had no idea what he was praying, but he kept praying. And this thing began to scream in pain. And it reached out to me, and I just wanted it to stop screaming in the pain because I knew it was hurting. And I didn't like that. I don't like anything hurting. So it was the pain, God, the scream was horrible. And I remember reaching out for his hand I wanted to comfort him, telling me, "You got to leave," or just to make the screaming stop. And so I reached out to his hand, and then I woke up. And I was completely awake from my dream. I couldn't breathe. It was like someone had just knocked the air out of my lungs. And I played football all my life. So if you've ever had that experience, you know it's scary. And I could not catch my breath. Finally, I caught my breath. And I looked over to my right. I was completely awake. This was not sleep paralysis because I had complete control of my muscular system. And my frontal lobe, I was completely consciously aware. I was sitting up. I looked over to my right, and about 15 feet away from me, that was the figure. The figure of that creature, demon, was standing about 15 feet away. He gave a horrible smirk. The blood was running off his face. And we had like marble or ceramic. I don't know if it was marble, I can't remember, on the floors. And the blood from this thing dropped on the floor, and the stains were there. And he just disappeared. Ever since, and my sister's on Shannon Long 30, she's on TikTok. Ever since that time, that basement, if you walk down in that home, it was very uncomfortable. I mean, it was like you were being watched. You knew you were being watched. There was we're extreme haunt, extreme. And by the way, my mom got mad because she thought I was, playing with red paint or doing something, because it ruined, because the red stains. The next morning she came, "James, what is this? What is it?" They were mad because the red stains were there and they couldn't get it off. They tried to bleach. They tried every possible thing they could to get those red stains off that marble. They couldn't do it. It ruined the whole entire section. So they eventually just put carpet down. Because otherwise it would cost way too much to tear that all up and put brand new marble on. So they thought, well, we'll just put carpet over it to be a heck of a lot cheaper, and that's what they did. Terrible. And I'll never forget it. I don't know if that was to prepare me for my life and what I do now. So I studied for the Roman Catholic priesthood. I studied for the Roman Catholic priesthood for 6 years. I studied with the Benedictines and the Jesuits. It was a wonderful. The seminary was the best time of my life. Truly was, truly was. And the information that I was taught, and just the demonology and angelology, the occult, the books. Just amazing. So I just read and read and read. But I just felt that God was calling me to serve people regardless of their faith, sexual orientation, race, gender. To me, I have friends that are pagans. I have friends that are Wiccans. I have friends that are Muslim, that are Islam, that are Jewish, that are Christian, that are agnostic, that are atheist. I have all types of friends. And I just wanted to be able to help anybody, regardless of their religious affiliation. So I chose a very difficult decision to join the Old Catholics. And the Old Catholics are different. The Old Catholics are very, very different in that we do not get paid as clergy. So we do this ministry 100% free, 100% free. I have been in the paranormal now for 35 years, but my ministry as a trained exorcist, so I'm an exorcist for the church. I've been trained, validly trained. And as of today, I've performed 30 documented exorcisms on people who were validly possessed. Now, what I mean by that is I work with psychiatrists. If someone comes to me and says, Bishop Long, I think I'm possessed, then the first thing I do is get a team out there and speak to the person. I don't speak to the person because I don't want to feed into the possibility that they might be mentally ill. So I don't want to feed into that psychosis. So a team comes out, we go investigate. There's a demonologist for the church. They gather all the information. If in fact it's demonic, then they'll present it to me and say, Bishop Long, you need to get involved. What I do, if someone claims to be possessed, then they must. This is not an option. They must have a psychological evaluation by a licensed medical therapist who is allowed legally to administer a psychological evaluation. That is non-negotiable. I won't even continue the conversation with them if they refuse. I just won't. And here's why. How do you get involved with Old Catholic ministry? Well, Jimmy, that's a good question. One of the things, yes, it does. One of the things, Bill, I'll answer that question just a second. Jimmy, each bishop within the Old Catholic Church, you might have some churches that are very conservative. You might have some that are very liberal. You might have some that are moderate. I belong to the United States Old Catholic Church. We are moderate, but we also ordain women. We do not reject people based on their, sexual orientation or age or gender. So to us, we are welcoming and inclusive, but that doesn't mean anything and everything goes. So we believe in 7 sacraments, and we have what's called valid apostolic succession. I don't want to get into a big theological conversation here. The Roman Catholic Church says that any church that can show your apostolic succession that Peter is validly Catholic. That was written by Pope John Paul, St. Paul, and of course, ratified by Benedict. I can show my apostolic succession all the way to Peter. What that means is Peter laid hands upon this apostle, that apostle laid hands upon this apostle, et cetera, et cetera. I can show my succession to Peter. I have a 121-page document. I have a doctorate in ministry, a master's of divinity, a master's of education, a master's of business, a bachelor's of communication journalism, and associate of philosophy. I went to Loyola University in Chicago, Argosy University, Sullivan University, and so that's what people always want to know, my education. I don't know why. But the 30 exorcisms that I performed, I require psychological evaluation. And people who don't irritate me. They irritate me. And the reason is they irritate me is because if you perform an exorcism on someone who has dissociative identity disorder, which is multiple personality, you create another personality. You see how dangerous that is? You don't ever perform an exorcism on someone without a psychological evaluation, ever. Or if someone is schizophrenic, and let's say they're paranoid schizophrenic, and you perform an exorcism on that person, you could put them in a paranoid state, and they could commit suicide. So this is not something you play around with, because you're dealing with a human being who may truly be having this manic episode in which they think they are seeing something or hearing something. And in fact, it could be mental illness, or it could be their medicine causing hallucination. So that's why it takes time before an exorcist gets involved with your case, because we have to do the groundwork before we even consider an exorcism. So that's why when I talk about documented, it's documented by medical professionals. And I have a medical team that's there with me. We never, ever perform an exorcism, ever, without having people who are trained medically. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Someone was asking, I think it was Bill. Bill, can have I? Oh yeah. Hey, Bishop Long, does your ministry help with feeding the poor? Bill Kingley, I think that's your name. If I mispronounced your name, I'm sorry. Yes, actually, I've been serving the homeless ministry for over 30 years now. I was a shelter coordinator for the homeless community, and I actually go to homeless camps in Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I'm actually on the ground going to these homeless camps, and I pass out food, clothes, sleeping bags, tents, whatever it is that they need. Most of the time, it's food. Water, but you also have to be very careful because there are some camps that are dangerous and there are some camps that are more welcoming, and so you don't want to just simply trudge around and go to these homeless camps unless you've been there and you're known and they know you, because some can be very dangerous. So I've been doing that now for 30 years. And so the homeless ministry is something that is very important, very, very important for me. So anyway, that's to answer your question. And yeah, I do certainly would like to thank all of you for being here on a Friday night. And of course, I want to thank KGRA Digital Broadcasting. We're brand new here, and we're airing it on their network. So good to be here. Very, very good to be here. Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Timeless Jewel. You can go to bishopjameslong.com, bishopjameslong.com, and you can make a donation if you like to help the ministry, because I fund it on my own pocket. So if someone calls me and they are in New York, then I got to find a way to get to New York. And normally it's through my own money. And I teach English online, so that's how I live. And you don't make a whole lot of money doing that, but at least it pays the bills and it tries to get me to these locations. So bishopjameslong.com, I teach demonology, angelology, genealogy, and paranormal studies. I teach all that online. And again, you can go to bishopjameslong.com and you can click on the link there for class, and you can enroll and you can learn all this plus more. So it's very, very in-depth, a lot of information, but you learn at your own pace, and it's 100% online. And then there's a store link there as well. And before we move on, I want to say one thing that's very important. I am and I don't want to offend anybody, but I am a strong supporter of our police and first responders. My nephew is a police officer. I love him. I pray for him nightly, and I honor him deeply because he's willing to put on the uniform and run towards danger when people obviously run away. When we have emergencies, we call the police, and they come in very dangerous situations. So I am a very strong supporter of our police officers and firefighters and EMTs and paramedics. So I want to make that very clear. I'm not going to make this political because it shouldn't be political. Because people who put on the uniform to protect us when someone breaks into our home, we will thank God that we have officers who are willing to run in here when someone could harm them to protect, and they're running in here to protect us. So I salute all of our police officers, and I'm only telling you this because, number one, I don't apologize for that, and I don't make political comments, but this should not be political. But number two, I say this because an officer came to me privately and asked me to help him. And I'm very, very, very careful about the people that I help because I understand there's fraud. This officer is Officer Gage. He is a good man. Officer Gage has severe chronic pancreatitis. And unfortunately, he's had it now for over a month. And he has no more sick leave. That's it. His sick leave is gone. Yes, he can apply for other help, but it takes time. People say, well, has he applied for this? Has he? Of course he has. I mean, of course. But if you've ever applied for assistance, you know it takes time. You're not going to get it tomorrow. So he has no more time, no more sick time. And his bills are catching up to him, and he's overwhelmed. So I told him I would help. And I would use my social media platform to let people know about it. So you can go to bishopjameslong.com, L-O-N-G, Bishop James Long, and click on the officer link. And you can make a donation directly to him. It doesn't go to me. It doesn't go to my ministry. Matter of fact, if you click on the link, it says push this link to donate. When you push it, it goes right to his page. And so let's help him out. I mean, seriously, let's put all the political stuff to the side. Let's just forget it. Let's put all that. I'm asking, this officer needs our help. And you can go to his webpage. You can go to his Facebook page. He is an officer. And, these things happen when you have pancreatitis, and unfortunately your medical leave and your time runs out. You're on your own. He has 2 kids. And so he's struggling. He has a wife, but he needs the help. Okay. So I'm not asking you to do this for me. I'm asking you to do this because it's the right thing to do. So instead of Bishop, if you want to go to my website and donate to the ministry, fine. But let's help this officer. Okay. So let's do that. And I would really, really appreciate that. Yeah. Always the back to blue. Amen, Oracle. And then that's your truth. Okay. We're going to get into some of your questions, and then we're going to go jumpy out. So someone said, I see many patients in stage 4 pancreatitis. Yeah. It's tough. It is tough. Pancreatitis is no joke. That is painful. It's horrible. And my gosh, it is painful. So, and as a police chaplain, you can kind of see where I support the blue. And so let's help him out. All right. All right. Oh, you're very welcome. Absolutely. Absolutely. And matter of fact, I believe he might be on TikTok. Normally he jumps on and he watches our TikTok show, and we kind of go from there. Okay. Oh, AZ says he really is a good man. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So let's get into some of our questions, and then we're going to go for there. Josh BA, how can you stop a demonic presence influence in your life? So Josh BA is asking that question. That's a very good question. And I think we have to get into some explanation of, first of all, we're going to talk about demonic entities. Okay. And I'll get into all your, I promise you, I'll get to your other questions. I promise you. I am going to say, obviously, most of us, if you are in America, let me get this out of the way. You have probably heard about the case today, the Rittenhouse today, the jury. I'm not here to make a political argument pro. I'm not here to make a political argument against the jury's decision. I'm just simply going to say this. We need to continue to pray for the families who lost their loved ones, and we need to pray for peace, that rioting and looting does not occur, that there's no more violence, and that people just be peaceful. And that's all I'm going to say as far as that. I'm not going to go into, because it's too political and it's too divisive. And I'm not going to sit there. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I agree or disagree with the verdict, because I'm the type of person, you'll never know if I'm liberal or conservative, because I won't tell you. Because I want everybody to feel like they can come to talk to me, even liberal or conservative or moderate. I want everyone to feel like you can speak to me without me judging you or condemning your thoughts or your point of view. So that's why I don't tell you my political views. Do I have them? Yes, I do have political views. But I am a bishop first. First of all, I am a deacon before anything else. And a deacon is a servant, serves the people. So before the episcopacy, priesthood, I'm a deacon. I'm a servant person. So it's not my job to use the media to espouse my political opinions. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so let's just pray for peace. Pray for peace. All right. Someone was, okay, so you were asking about how do you deal with the demonic activity. So let me just tell you this, and then I'm going to go into, I'll answer some of your other questions. And by the way, what I do is on this show, for those of you who are brand new, I teach demonology. I teach about possession and the paranormal. I love the paranormal, and I love all walks of life. I have friends that are, let me just make this clear. I will tell you this. I have friends that are psychic, and I have friends that are psychic mediums. I'm good friends with Chip Coffey, and pretty much everybody knows Chip. I love Chip. He's very, very talented. I'm good friends with Willie Windwalker Gibson, who's a shaman, who's also a psychic medium. My sister is gifted. There are people that I know that are gifted, and I have personally, as a police chaplain, I was there on the scene when the police had a psychic medium, a medium told them where they could find this person who had been missing. The police went there. I was there with the family to keep the family away from the site. The police were able to find the body within 5 feet. Within 5 feet of where the medium told them where they could find him. Now, some people say, well, that's demonic, that's evil. That gave the family peace, because now they could, they took the remains, obviously, of the family member who had been murdered. They buried the family member. They were able to have closure. And so I have met people that have amazing gifts. I'm telling you, I've seen it firsthand. Now, people say, well, what about the scripture? Scripture says, in the Old Testament, you shouldn't go see a soothsayer. You shouldn't see a psychic. You shouldn't see a sorcerer. You shouldn't do any of that stuff. For those of you who are on TikTok, I ask for your humble apologies, but a lot of people are brand new here and they have not heard this very quick. So I'll do a very, very quick abridged version of what scripture was talking about. I teach scripture every Wednesday. I love history. I love history just as much as I love demonology. To me, especially when it comes to biblical history, you cannot understand the passages in Bible unless you understand the historical context to which it was written and to why it was written. What was the point? What was going on during the time? During the time, remember, they were fighting polytheism, the worshiping multiple gods. And what would here was the abomination. People were saying, well, I have multiple gods with the lowercase g, and I have 30 gods. And if you don't give every single one and appease every single one of these gods, if you don't give them 10 shekels or 10 gold pieces or silver pieces, whatever it might be, each, then that God is going to punish your loved one for eternity in Hades, that your loved one will never, ever, ever have freedom. They'll be punished forever. So the families, the grieving families, would go to these people, these sorcerers or their mediums. Their understanding of mediums is not the same as ours today, because they're talking about 5,000 years. So terminology changes. And they would give 10 gold pieces or silver pieces to each of their gods. What these psychics were doing were saying, oh, no. You only gave it to 20, but now we have 25 gods. Now there's a god of wind, or there's a god of trees, and you have to give that god and this god. So then they were taking advantage of individuals, of family members that unfortunately were weeping and grieving for their loved one. And then this is where the necromancy comes in, because then the psychic medium with their understanding would say, well, if you don't, then this God's going to raise your loved one up from the dead and punish them forever and ever and gain information and make them basically a slave. So the families would be forced then to give everything that they have to these fraudsters, who obviously didn't give the money to these gods because the gods didn't exist. And they were fraud. It was committing fraud. They were ripping people off in their time of grief. That was the abomination, that they were using gods to control and manipulate people. Now, people say, well, I have never heard of this. Well, then take it up with the Roman Catholic Church, because this is where I was taught this in graduate school by the Roman Catholic Church, who's obviously has some of the most brilliant theologians and historians in the church. I mean, this is not new stuff, but that's what happened. That was, and not only that, but because there were different cultures mingling together, and they were so influenced by polytheism, the worshiping multiple gods, they would require that, and I'm not going to mention the name, but they would require that the firstborn be actually sacrificed to one of the gods, the demon gods. And that's why it talks about in Deuteronomy that you shouldn't sacrifice your children. Well, that's what it meant, because that's what people were doing. Because if you didn't, then that God would punish you and make you barren. So you had to give, obviously, if you wanted multiple children to give to your husband, you had to sacrifice the first child. So that's why it was talking about that in Deuteronomy. So anyway, it was you're right, charlatans. It was terrible, but that's what they were doing. And that was the abomination, and rightfully so. So their understanding of a psychic medium was not what we understand as a psychic medium today. And so I just want to make sure that people understand that, because a lot of people get that very, very confused. But someone was asking, oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mary Luz. Thank you. So let me just say this. Someone was asking, how do I get rid of the demonic in my life? Okay. Let me explain. There are two types of demonic activity. Okay. So you have ordinary demonic activity, and then you have extraordinary. Now, ordinary demonic activity is when the demonic will begin to influence you and begin to tempt you to do things that you ordinarily would not do. Let's say, for example, you have a weakness for lust. And you're a paranormal investigator. You go out and you say, come on, demons, or I dare you to do something to me. I dare you to do something. I've said this a billion times. Folks, please understand that you're not provoking. That's not provoking. You do understand that, don't you? Beating your chest and saying, I dare you to do something. Come on, I'll knock you out. Like you're Mike Tyson. You're going to beat up this demon. I dare you to do something. That demon is looking right at you and saying, well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. That's what I needed. You see, you've not provoked. You've invited. Those are not the same thing. The very moment you begin to tell a demonic entity to do something, to make a noise, to interact with you, you have opened what is known as a portal. Open line. A portal is people use the portal as this real tunnel or something that you jump through or something. That's not a portal. A portal is. I could use this. Here. I could use this flashlight right here. This flashlight. I could use this as a portal. Meaning I'm using this as a communication tool to speak to the spirit world. I've opened up a portal. That's what opening up a portal is. And when you go out to a place and you say, I dare you to do something, I dare you to do something. I dare you to touch me. I dare you to touch this other person. I dare you to push something. You have invited. You haven't provoked. And people get that confused. And I've read all the books on paranormal. I've read every single book you can possibly think. No one has said that. And I'm thinking, why is that? Do they not understand the difference between invitation and provoking? That's inviting. And that is what the demonic needs to then attach. Now you have an attachment. So this guy needs to be abducted by the Greys. That's what Mark Davis says. Come on, Mark. We'll talk about the Greys if you want to, buddy. I'll be more than happy to talk about. Okay. So now you have an attachment because you said, I dare you to do something. I dare you to touch me. I dare you to push me. That's an attachment. Now, an ordinary demonic activity is when the demonic will say, and if you, let's say you suffer from lust, maybe you're married and you struggle from lust anyway. Well, now you're finding yourself cheating on your partner. Now you're finding the lust amplified times 100, and it becomes so progressive. It gets to a point where now it is taking a major control over your life, that it becomes so intrusive and almost controlling you that you no longer have a handle on it, but now it's gotten out of control. That's called ordinary demonic activity. So the ordinary demonic activity will basically, when the demonic influences you to do something that you ordinarily would not do. Now that's different. Yeah, we'll talk about the Greys. That's different than extraordinary demonic activity. Okay, extraordinary. And that actually is classified into 4 categories. Now, have you ever heard of demonic infestation, oppression, possession? You probably have heard about The Conjuring. As a matter of fact, my buddy, Andrea Perron, love her to death. Love Andrea. Andrea is one of the salt of the earth. Salt of the earth. She's a friend of mine, and I just love her to death. And she was one of the children that actually grew up in the Conjuring house. And matter of fact, she has a show right after mine, as a matter of fact, on KGRA digital radio. So make sure you tune into that. You don't want to miss Andrea's. Look, you don't want to miss Andrea's show. She has an amazing. She's been in the paranormal for a long time. She's a survivor. And in the Conjuring movie, you might have heard Lorraine Warren, which I did know Lorraine. I never got a chance to speak to Ed, but I did know Lorraine, and I consider Lorraine a friend. As a matter of fact, I had her on my show a couple of times. And that's where they introduced infestation, oppression, possession. And that's extraordinary demonic activity. So let's say, for example, I promise you, I'll get into grays. I promise you. So let's say you go out, you paranormal investigate. Now, you then provoke, you have an attachment, you open the line of communication, you go home. Now you have what's called demonic infestation. Demonic infestation is when the demonic has infested into your home or building. You will have rotten odor, the horrible, like a rotten flesh. You will feel overwhelming, sick, a sense of dread, severe back pain, stomach pain. Religious objects are desecrated. So if you have crucifixes on the wall, they're thrown across the room or slammed to the ground. Animals are terrified. I mean, the hair stands on the back of their neck, and they're growling at something, and you don't see what they're growling at, but they're clearly upset about something. That's all infestation. Now, when the demonic then chooses you as its victim because you've accidentally given the invitation, now the demonic is going to interact with you. So now it will start affecting your will. So it'll start attacking you physically, biting you, pinching you, scratching you, terrifying you, basically making you very sleep deprived. That's what's called demonic oppression. That's when it's trying to break down your will. And I'm not talking about sleep deprivation. I'm talking about past that, to the point where you can't, you collapse. Your body is autoimmune, it's compromised. Your immune system is compromised because you're in a weakened state, because you can't sleep. It's making you sick. It's a process. And then demonic obsession. Demonic obsession is when it begins to speak to you. It mimics schizophrenia. So it will begin to say that you're stupid, that no one loves you, that you are on your own, that you need to just give in to it, that you need to, it goes on and on. And you begin to see things. Annalise Michel, Emily Rose, described this stage when she would see what she says as ghastly figures. Annalise Michel is Emily Rose. And then once the intellect and will of the person is eradicated, so you can't fight anymore. It's physically impossible. Again, I'm not talking about tired. We're past that. We're way past that, to the point where your body has given up, completely given up the fight. The will is eradicated. The intellect is eradicated because it forces you to basically separate yourself from the people that protect you. And then you have possession. Okay? So you have to be very, very careful about that. Now, of course, when you're talking about exorcisms, there are two types of exorcisms. There's the minor rite of exorcism, and then there's the solemn rite. The minor rite of exorcism is what I did on the Travel Channel when they did the Exorcism Live. They invited me to go to the Exorcist house in St. Louis, and actually it was the mom and dad. It was the married couple, who actually wanted me to go. And people don't know this backstory because I wasn't allowed to talk about it then, but I am now. She was pregnant, and she actually asked for me to come to bless the home, so that before they had brought a child into that home. And so that's how I got involved on that case. They called me in. I thought it was going to be like a Ghost Adventures, maybe 3 or 4 cameras. When I went to this place, it was 10 semi trucks. I mean, multi-million-dollar set. And I thought, oh my, I have really bitten off more than what I should have done here, because I didn't want that type of, that was too big. That was too big. It was intense. And so I performed the minor rite of exorcism. And that's a minor rite of exorcism is an exorcism. It's a prayer ritual that you pray over a demonic entity, on a demonic entity or malevolent spirit that's infested themselves in the home. There's no such thing as performing an exorcism on a house. Anybody who says that clearly has no clue on demonology. You can't perform an exorcism on a house. It doesn't exist. You bless a home. You don't perform an exorcism on it. You perform an exorcism on a demonic or malevolent spirit that's infested itself within the home. That's the minor rite of exorcism. Now, the solemn rite is when a person, remember, has gone through the extraordinary form, the stages of possession. The person is at a very weakened state. They can no longer fight the demonic, and now the demonic has control of the muscular skeletal system. That's very dangerous. The movie The Exorcist, the pea soup, that actually is valid, because if you try to give substance or life to the person who's possessed, they will become violently ill and regurgitate violently. So the possibility of them going into a stroke or heart attack, it's very high, because they're very malnourished. They're dehydrated. Their body is not getting the hydration, because the demonic will not allow substance of life to enter the body, because it's torturing the body. And that's why you need people who are medically trained, which I do. I have people that are medically trained that are monitoring the vitals, determining whether or not the person is going into a heart attack or stroke, because I'm not medically trained. And that's why you have to have people. Now, I know this is a lot of information, but a deliverance is not the same thing as an exorcism. Deliverance is not even close to an exorcism. A deliverance is a prayer that is prayed over an individual in which a demonic entity has attached itself to under a stage of oppression. So when the person is under the stage of the oppression, that's when you pray a deliverance, delivering that person from that attachment. That's not an exorcism. Okay, so a lot of people are confusing those two. Okay, so there we go. I'm digging the show. Well, all right. I appreciate you digging the show. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Now. People are talking about grays. And I know, and I have a lot of art. We're going to go over some articles too. Some really cool. I mean, I've gotten some really cool articles for you guys that I want to talk to you guys about, because these are really cool. Well, thank you very much. Ging is Khan. Well, thank you. Thank you again. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, Josh is asking, what prayer should you use for attachment? Well, you can certainly do the St. Michael prayer. And I would do the short form. Now, as a matter of fact, if you go to Bishop James Long, I got to do this, because obviously this is how I fund my ministry. You can go to Bishop James Long and click on the store link. I don't have a lot of these because I just bought them. I absolutely love these new bracelets that I got. These are the new bracelets. They are leather, and they have, you can see there's this thing here. You can snap on a medal. You can choose between, there's the Benedict. There's your Benedict. Saint Benedict is the patron saint for exorcists, as well as police officers. And there is the Saint Michael. You can choose this one. You get all four of these, by the way. You get all four of these medals. So you can choose whichever medal you want to put on their bracelet. There is the Sacred Heart of Christ. And then here is Mary. Okay. So, and you just snap them right on, and you can purchase yours. And anybody who does purchase that, I do send this to you. And this is in the back of it. That is your short form prayer for the St. Michael prayer. So everybody who buys that bracelet gets one of these. And again, people say, well, why do you do that? Why do you even raise money? Well, because I'm not Donald Trump. I don't have my own plane. I'm thinking about poverty. It's not as if I have just a plane waiting for me just to be able to jump. I mean, if someone calls you from, Florida, can you get down to Florida? I mean, you have to understand that I have to drive all the way or fly all the way to Florida or Texas or California or wherever I'm going. And then you have to get the hotel. Sometimes you have to stay a week. Well, if you're spending $125 or $100 a night at a hotel, sometimes you're not going to get much. You go to California, you're not going to get much for $100 a night. But even if you can find something that's reasonably cheap, let's say $100 a night, and you stay a week, that's $700 plus tax. Then you have to rent a car. That's another $400 if it's not too far. That's $1,100. And if you have to fly, you understand what I'm saying? I don't charge families. So it's not like I can just write a check out and say, oh, sure, let's go on my private plane, Bishop Long plane, and hop to Tennessee or hop to Florida or hop to New York. Let's just go. I mean, some people are just so ridiculous. So that's why, this is how I fund my ministry, out of my own pocket. And I used to never do this. About 10 years ago, I put all, credit card piling up. Everything was piling, bills were piling up. And I thought, I got to stop this. I got to stop it. I can't keep doing this. I can't. And that is why I now sell items so that I can afford to go to people's house and deal with demonic entities for free so that the homeowners don't have to be hit with a bill of, well, here's $3,000 bill. No, I do it for nothing. And I haven't done it yet. I've never charged for 20 years. Not once. Investigating the home, performing the solemn rite of exorcism. That is one thing that people can say whatever they want to about Bishop James Long, but one they can never say is that I have never charged, never will. And not only that, I won't work with anyone who does. Because that's the only thing that your integrity in the paranormal field, you have to work hard to build integrity. And that's one thing that I do have. And I'm very proud of that. And say pride and whatever you want to say, but I'm very, very proud that my integrity and reputation in the paranormal field, you can say whatever you want to say about me personally, but you can't say that I went around charging people and made a buck off this. Matter of fact, I'm trying to get down to Florida. The family moved. They had a horrible, violent case in Houston, and the family actually left their home. It was so violent, the family said that they can't be in the home anymore. So now they moved to Florida to be with their family members in Florida. And I told them, I said, no matter if this is an attachment, you can leave that home, but you're gonna have now issues in Florida. So I know that they're gonna call me, and I'm gonna have to find a way to get down to Florida. So, but hey, Donald Trump, Trumpster. And I'm not saying if I like Trump or not, but if you're watching this and you want to support the ministry, well, you can go ahead and write a check out. For the people people who always complain, well, you shouldn't be selling things, you shouldn't be. And then I say to them, then open your checkbook and make a donation, and then I won't have to. Crickets. That's what you hear. Crickets. Nothing then. But yet those haters, and I got plenty of them, they're the first ones that call me when all hell breaks loose in their home. Then I tell them, let me try to raise some money and let me try to get down there, which I've done. But anyway, that's what are you going to do? And thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. We keep pushing forward, don't we? Oh, you can go to bishopjameslong.com. bishopjameslong, LONG.com. Okay? And I appreciate that. Okay, sleep paralysis and grays. Yes. People asking me, do I bless the bracelets? Okay, there's a terminology called simony. Simony is when you sell religious title or offices like the episcopacy, or I say, oh, I'll ordain you if you pay me $500, or if you you buy this blessed item, and I'll sell you this blessed item. That's simony. What I do out of common courtesy to you, so that you don't have to find clergy to bless your item, after you purchase your item, I will personally bless it for you as a courtesy. People, something like that's simony. No, it's not. The Roman Catholic Church does this all the time. You can go to the religious store, you can buy something, and they have a priest that works at the religious store, and he'll bless it for you, and they'll send it on your way. That happens all the time. It's just because Bishop Long is doing it, that's what makes it so evil. But it's not. It's just another hater gimmick to try to do. So anyway, I bless it for you after you purchase it, so that you don't have to go find clergy to do that for you. So there we are. Okay. Someone was asking me about the grays, and then someone was asking me something about, I forgot what it was. So, okay. Now the book, if you order the book, that comes from the publisher. That does not come from me. So please understand that. Okay, everybody, that does not come from me. That comes from the publisher. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome. All right. Do I believe that there are alien life, or there is alien life? Absolutely. Absolutely. No question. Absolutely no question. There's too much evidence. There's far too much evidence, and there are far too many people. I met Travis Walton. Travis Walton is from the movie The Fire in the Sky. And I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times and speak to him about his situation privately, which was really cool. I met him at a conference and there wasn't a whole lot of people around, so there wasn't anybody when I talked to him. So I had a pretty good conversation with him about what happened. And from a theological perspective, we had a good conversation. There's too many people. There are far too many people who are very credible. Police officers, attorneys, doctors, medical, there even the people in the army, armed services. There are too many people who are claiming to see these things, not only see them, but there are people that are very credible who are saying they have been abducted. And the evidence is just simply too much. It's too much to avoid. It gets to a point where you have to say, okay, there's so much going on that you have to wonder that there's got to be some type of proof to this, because there's just too many credible people. They would lose everything. They lose everything to go talk about, being abducted. They gain nothing for it. And so for me, I do believe that there are people that are in fact dealing with abductions. I don't like abductions. I think abductions are wrong. Do I believe demonic? Are they demonic? No, I do not believe that these beings are demonic. But I do believe that they are behaving as a demonic would. Sometimes, just as humans do. A gray, as you call it, grays are known to be the ones that abduct people and do scientific experimentation on people. Well, here's the problem with that. They do exactly what demonic entities do. They violate your free will. That is evil. But human beings do the same thing. My God, how many animals have we abused and tortured, all in the name of a perfume that we want to buy to determine whether or not if you spray it in your eyes, it's going to hurt? There are animals that have been so horribly tortured and tormented and abused, all in the name of beauty. And we do the same damn thing to them as the grays do to so many people who claim to be abducted. So let's not look at the grays as these pure, evil, horrible things, and human beings are so righteous, when in fact we have tortured animals, all in the name of beauty. I did a deep investigation on this when I was at Loyola University, and it was appalling. Disgusting. And I do not support any product that does animal experimentation because of beauty. I just don't do it, because to me it's so vulgar. It is so vulgar. And the things that they have, the pictures that I have seen, the people that I've spoken to who used to work at these places, it'll make you sick to your stomach. Sick to your stomach. And I don't think any moral person could see what they do to these animals as okay just because they want to make a brand new perfume or cologne. Disturbing. Very disturbing. So, but anyway, that's what I truthfully believe. I think we're talking about alien grays. Someone said grays ? Alien beings. There are people who actually believe that no question that there are alien life. Captain Thomas Mantell, I think his name is Mantell, Mantell. A long time ago, I actually was doing a report on UFOs, and I got to speak to his wife. And Captain Thomas Mantell, the last broadcast that he was a fighter pilot, and he was a pilot, and he worked in the Navy or Air Force. I'm sorry, and there was this thing that he saw, this sphere that he saw. And he and his buddies were chasing after this. And the last recording that he put was, it's a round sphere. It doesn't exist here. And that was the last report. They've never found his plane. They've never found if he crashed anywhere. Nothing. That was last. And it was really cool to actually be able to speak to his wife about this. Captain Thomas Mantell is his name. Pretty cool. A very, very cool story. Okay, someone was asking about an incubus. Someone said dressed in priest clothing and talking about aliens. Well, actually, there are people dressed in priest clothing who talk about aliens and the Vatican. So before you pass judgment, maybe you should do your research. The Vatican, there are priests. There are very higher up, if you want to call it the hierarchy of the church, who are very active with the astronomy program that they do have in the Vatican. And as a matter of fact, even Benedict and Francis both have said that the belief in aliens does not disprove or show that God doesn't exist. And so one can believe in alien life as well as being a Christian. So if you want to come in and start being hateful, then I would challenge you to do study first and then love your neighbor as yourself. That kind of rule Jesus kind of gave, something like that. Okay, just saying. All right. Yeah. So what is it? Imagine aliens dressed up like priests. Yeah, boy, that would be interesting, isn't it? Yeah. I'm sure I have been accused of being an alien. Someone actually accused me 15 years ago when I went public. I didn't want to go public with my ministry. I wanted to stay very quiet. And people say, "Oh, bull." My sister will tell you on TikTok, I'm an introvert. This is what's amazing is people don't believe this, but even with people who are very famous, even on the radio or television, when they're on television or on the radio, yes, they're that personality. But when they get off of the radio or off television, they're very quiet. They're very reserved. That's me. I'm a very reserved person. When I'm off the radio or when I'm not on the camera, I'm very reserved. I've been like this all my life. I'm an INFJ. If you know anything about Myers-Briggs, the personality test, I'm an INFJ, extreme. And that is an extreme introvert. So for me, I like to read. I like to study. That's what I enjoy doing. That's why I only do this Wednesday and Friday, because that's like, whoo, this is a lot for me. And when I go meet people at a huge conference, that's extremely draining. But people just kind of, I think they have a different perspective. But sleep paralysis, I promise you I get to sleep paralysis. Okay. I've been doing my show now. I was saying, when I didn't want to go public with my ministry, I wanted to stay private. But at that time, there was no Catholic clergy. There was none, because I was there. I was there 20 years ago. And there were no Catholic clergy. There was no Catholic clergy helping the paranormal community. The only person that was there was Father Andrew Calder. And for those of you who know him, he was a very good friend of mine. Andy, I really had a lot of love and appreciation for Andy. Andy belonged to a schismatic group, Episcopalian group. He didn't belong to the main church. He belonged to a schismatic group, sort of like the old Catholics. But he was not called to serve and to perform exorcism. He had no desire. That was not a calling that he wanted to do. And that's fine. But there was no Catholic clergy, none. And so people kept telling me, Bishop Long, there's no Catholic clergy in the paranormal community. We need your help. So that's when I went public. And that's when all the television shows, that's when I didn't understand all that. It's like, all I'm doing is talking about demonology. And as an exorcist, I didn't understand all that. But it was a new thing in the paranormal community. We communicated through Yahoo groups. There was no Facebook. There was no MySpace. The paranormal community at that time, it was Yahoo groups and GeoCities. GeoCities, if you had a website, you used GeoCities. That's what you used. And that was it. That was all you did use. But that's how we communicated. And then about 5 years into it, I was getting severe death threats. Extreme death threat. I mean, legitimate death threats, to where when I went to paranormal conferences, they had to hire extra police in Indianapolis because the death threats were getting so. And I didn't understand, what is the threat? What is the threat? And I talked to my mentor about this, and I don't understand it. I'm just trying to help people. That's all. I don't charge. What is a threat? And he reminded me, you're not the threat to the people. But the fact that you said yes to God, you are a threat to the demonic. And unless you understand that, you shouldn't be an exorcist. And it kind of I connected the two, and I'm like, okay, now I understand, because it was. I mean, the death threats were getting severe, and these people were under ordinary demonic activity in which they were. I mean, it was severe. It was pretty serious. But I just, and I guess they felt threatened because I have friends. I support friends from all walks of life, from all religions. I'm not here to tell you my religion is the right way and only way and yours is wrong. That's not my job. I'm not here to do that. And I'm not here to prove that demons exist. I will not even attempt to try to prove to you or anyone that demons exist. Let me make that very clear. I'm not going to waste my time. And the reason being is because I am here to help the families who know they do. And that's my motto in life. So if you want me to prove to you, nope, you're wasting your time because I won't do it. I don't need to prove to you. I need to help the families who know that they do exist. And that's my ministry. Sleep paralysis. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I had a neurologist on the show a long time ago. I started my show, the Sacred Division, around 2005, I think. And we were one of the very first paranormal shows ever to go on air. And this was on a network that all did paranormal, and this was the only network at that time. And I had a neurologist on, and I asked him about sleep paralysis. Now, this was a neurosurgeon, so obviously he knows sleep paralysis. Many people get demonic entities and demonic activity confused with sleep paralysis. So let me explain this, because this is very, very important. I'll get to the rest of your questions. Michelle remembers this. Let me get to I'll get to your questions, because this is important. A lot of people suffer from sleep paralysis. And this is how he taught us. Okay. There are two classifications of sleep paralysis. There's what is called isolated sleep paralysis, which is also known as ISP, or recurrent isolated sleep paralysis. That's RISP. That means it happens often. Now, what he stated is, even if you have ISP or RISP, recurrent, you really need to get tested for narcolepsy, because especially if you have a recurrent isolated sleep paralysis, because what he has found as a neurosurgeon is that people who have RISP usually have some other medical condition such as narcolepsy. And that can explain a lot of the recurrent isolated issues. So that's the difference. ISP they're infrequent. They don't happen very often, and they're short in duration, and they usually happen for a minute. So during the ISP episodes, remember, ISP is isolated sleep paralysis. Doesn't happen very, very often. They're short, and when you have an ISP, that is usually in conjunction with a demonic, or what you think is demonic, or an incubus, succubus that attacks you on a sexual nature, many times hallucinations. All right. And I'll explain this in a second. I appreciate the questions, but hold on. If yours was under a minute, that's ISP. Now, ISPs, that's isolated sleep paralysis, they can persist up to a half an hour. So it's not just a few seconds. Most of the time, the neurosurgeon said 80 to 90% of the time, it's 30 seconds and it's over. However, it can last up to half an hour, but that's rare. He says also, isolated sleep paralysis is commonly seen in patients that have been diagnosed with narcolepsy. And narcolepsy attacks are more common when the individual is falling asleep. That's why. So narcolepsy, when you have a narcoleptic attack, that's when it normally occurs, when you're falling asleep or when you're waking up. So ISP and RISP attacks are more common even when you're awakening. Now, this is what happens during a sleep paralysis state. He described it as what's happening is your subconscious, and that's the part of your brain where you dream. Your frontal lobe, the consciousness, is slowly drifting away. The subconscious is now controlling the brain, the breathing patterns, etc. Remember, the subconscious is the part where you dream. Now, you're not fully in a state of unconsciousness, but your frontal lobe is slowly drifting. Your subconscious is taking control. During that intermittent time, and some people it's longer than others, if you are suddenly awake or jolted or something grabs your attention and you look to your right or even sometimes right on top of you, in front of you, what you'll have is your subconscious is projecting the image that you have, and you are thinking you're actually seeing this in real life. However, remember, your frontal lobe, the part of the brain that's reasoning, is not in control of the brain at this time. So your subconscious is projecting this image, whatever, if you had the monster or whatever it might be. At that time, because your frontal lobe, the conscious part of your brain, controls the motor functions of the body, that is why they call it you're in a catatonic state. You can't move, because your consciousness is not taking control of their motor functions. It's subconscious, your subconscious brain. So that is why it happens for 30 seconds. And it's terrifying. It legitimately is terrifying. You can't move. You can't scream. There's nothing you can do. And you are seeing this. You're seeing this image. Your subconscious is projecting this image in front of you. You see it. It is there. It is just as real as I am. It's just as real as your family member or friend that maybe might be next to you. It is 100% real. Your body is experiencing all this emotion and fear, and obviously, that understandably so. But usually after 30 seconds, you will notice that you can start moving the functions of the body. That is because the frontal lobe, your conscious, is taking control of your motor functions, and that image that the subconscious was projecting, that image will fade away. And then that's when you have what's called isolated sleep paralysis. And it is terrifying. And when you see this, you're absolutely convinced that is a demonic, that there was a demon in your home. And that's scary, because you can't move, you can't scream, you can't do anything, you're stuck. That would be scary to anybody. That's why I always ask people, they say, well, I saw a demon. Okay, did it occur when you're going to sleep or when you're waking up? Yes. Okay, that's sleep paralysis. Now, does it only occur when you're going to sleep or waking up? Yes, that's sleep paralysis. But can a demonic manipulate sleep paralysis and actually still be present? Yes. But remember, that's a demonic infestation. So if you don't have other items such as religious objects are desecrated, or bangings on the wall, or scratches, or bites, and animals are terrified, or the smell of sulfur, if you don't have other activity occurring, and it's only occurring when you're waking up or sleeping, that is sleep paralysis. Okay? Now, RISP, remember, that's recurrent isolated sleep paralysis. That can last up for an hour or longer. And many people will have a high occurrence or talk about out-of-body experiences with this. And as the name suggests, recurrent isolated sleep paralysis is a chronic condition. And with RISP, the individual can also suffer back-to-back episodes of sleep paralysis in the same night. And while it is unlikely, according to the neurosurgeon, that's unlikely with the people who have isolated sleep paralysis. So the individual suffers from frequent episodes throughout their lifetime. And the biggest difference between what's called ISP, isolated sleep paralysis, and RISP is the duration. Remember, RISP, you can have several episodes back to back. And that is really, that's very, very frightening. It's frightening, period. But obviously that could be pretty terrible. Now, if you guys are big into science or whatever, physiologically, the neurologist says sleep paralysis is closely related to REM atonia. That's REM. And the paralysis that occurs at a natural part, the rapid eye movement, that's what REM stands for. And that's when you're going to sleep. Okay. So there we go. That is your whole thing of your sleep paralysis. I know it's a lot. It is a lot. Yeah, sleep paralysis doesn't always have to. That's right, on your back. That's true. That is true. Oh, you have so someone has MS and RISP. RISP would be terrifying. That would be so scary. That would be really, really scary, and that would be just, I don't know. I wouldn't like it. People have asked me, what about your situation with my dream? Was that ISP? Remember the dream that I talked about in the beginning? No, that would not be considered ISP. And the reason being is because I was actually sitting up. I was sitting up for quite some time getting my breath. So I had full control of my frontal lobe. I had full control of my motor functions. I had full control. So my consciousness was in control of the brain. The subconscious was not. And when I looked over to my right, after I had gained my breath and gained my composure and sitting up and I have control of my motor functions, I was able to look over to my right. And that is where I saw that creature that was actually there. So in that case, that would not be sleep paralysis because I was in full control of my brain and my motor functions. Okay. So there we are. Yeah, it's scary stuff. It is. Before I go any further, Shannon Long 30, are you going to go live tonight on TikTok, Shannon Long 30? Just let me know if you will. Okay. Have you ever experienced a type of demonic possession of animals and pets? Well, let me just say that that's a good question. Okay. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that. Shannon Long 30. And Shannon Long 30 on TikTok, they're going to do readings and they're going to try to raise some funds because I'm trying to get down. I'm going to have to get down to Florida. I'm sure they're going to have demonic infestation. This case in Houston is pretty severe. I won't go into detail. This is a very violent incubus case. And so I'm not going to talk about it because the family has not given me permission to. So I got to respect that. I will, by the way, I will have on an individual who, and I talked to you guys about this before on TikTok and the rest of you guys. I will be having, her name is Angie, and I will be having her on as a guest. Her mother's name is June. She passed. June was 68. She was beautiful, wonderful. I loved her to death. And she was like a grandma. She was just a wonderful human being. And she dealt with a very, very violent incubus case. And Angie is nervous about talking about it because obviously she's not a public person, but June wanted her story out. June wanted she wants people to know that you're not alone. And so I have talked to Angie, and Angie said, whenever I'm ready, whenever I have time, she'll do the interview. So she is going to. I worked with June on this horrible, god awful case, and I grew to love her. She would describe these things. She told me once they were dogs, but Angie thought they were cats. But they're like 3 10-pound small dogs or small animals. And she could actually feel them, the bed. When she was on the bed, she was awake. She wasn't drifting off to sleep, but she was awake at this time. She was fully conscious, fully aware. And she could feel these creatures, the impressions that they made creeping towards her. And then it would hold her down and do terrible things. And she went through hell. I mean, unbelievable. And so, but I worked with her. She could still see them. She could still feel them. But now when I talked to June, she said they were no longer sexually assaulting her. And she lived a year and then she passed away. She didn't pass away from that. She passed away from natural causes. And the family asked me to preside at her funeral. And I did. And that was hard. That was not easy. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life because I grew to love her. And that was one of the cases that I took personal because I saw the torture that it was causing, and it just terrible what she endured. So I'm telling you that because Angie will be on air. I'm going to see about next week and see if she would like to be interviewed then, and if so, I will interview her. But I will tell you now, that is not going to be a show for kids under no circumstances. So I will make sure people know that it is a very sensitive topic, and that if you're gonna be there, your kids should not be listening to it at all. And are hellhounds like the ones from the Ullman Reel? There are people that report hellhounds. I have a story about that could be hellhound. I don't know, but I have a story, and we'll do that. Setsuna, please don't do that, because you're spamming, and we don't allow spamming. Setsuna 2314, do not do that. Sorry, I'm having to let people know, don't spam in here. That's not appropriate. Not appropriate. You can post it on your page and that kind of stuff, but do not come in here. No, because we're talking about very serious stuff. So go someplace else. If you're more than welcome to be here and participate and watch, but you're not allowed to spam. So I'm going to make that very, very clear. And I should say, you understand, Twitch does have a very firm policy that if you're spamming on other people's pages, they will delete your account. So that's your only warning. Okay. So anyway, I just, sorry about that. I just had to, very frustrating. By the way, let's go into this. Listen to this. This is very cool. This is a very, very cool article that I saw the other day, and I want to share this with you guys and see what you guys think. This is really crazy. Japanese scientists have invented a neutralizer for erasing your memory. Just like the movie that you saw, oh, I don't know, Will Smith, which, by the way, I got to meet Will Smith long time ago. I have a picture of myself when I'm at Run DMC, and DJ Jazzy Jeff and Flavor Flav, they were doing their Parents Just Don't Understand tour. And my brother at that time, he was a disc jockey for WLOU radio in Louisville. And he said, hey, James, he called me and he said, hey, Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince, and Will Smith, they're over here. And do you want to meet them? I'm like, well, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, they were popular, really popular. I was like, absolutely. So I went down there and I went to the station and I met him. Will Smith was amazing. Just one of the nicest human beings I have ever met in my life. One of the nicest people. Just a great guy. Sweet. I mean, really kind with his time. Very, very polite. Flavor Flav was a little... I don't know if he knew where he was. I'll just say that. DJ Jazzy Jeff and they were really cool. That was Run DMC. I got to meet the Run DMC guys. Like I said, I have a picture. I haven't grabbed that picture one day. But anyway, Will Smith was in that movie. I forgot what it was. Where they had this little device and they put it up in front of people and their memory. Well, get this. So again, Japanese scientists have invented a neutralizer for erasing your memory. So a team of scientists from Kyoto University, KYOTO, so there you go, you can look it up, succeeded in what previously seemed impossible only in films. For the first time, researchers were able to erase memories from the brain of a living being. The results of the experiment were published in Science. Scientists at Kyoto University have invented a neuro-optic system that can manipulate memories. It was successfully tested on laboratory mice. Now, scientist Okiro Goto noted in Men in Black, the movie, agents erase memories with a flash of light. They said, we did something similar. Scientists have used light to deactivate proteins required for LTP. It's a special type of neural activity that helps boost memory. So the main of these proteins is coughlin, and it affects synapses in the cerebral cortex and is very important for the formation of long-term memories. So experts injected into the brain of mice an adeno-associated virus, or AAV, commonly used to deliver genes. And it was linked to a modified protein made from phenolphthalein and fluorescent marker. When exposed to light, it released active oxygen, which deactivated nearby compounds. So in this way, scientists influence the hippocampus, and that's the region of the brain responsible for storing memories. And they taught the mouse certain actions. But after irritating the hippocampus, the rodent lost the memory of the learned skill. I don't know about this one. Guys, that's scary. That is really scary if you think about this. So, and this, they actually did this. You can look it up, Google it. This is not science fiction. Now, as a result, scientists recorded the loss of memories of the studied task, comparing the effect to a flash of light from the memory erasing neutralizer in Men in Black films. The author suggested that the new data obtained during the experiment will help the treatment of a number of mental disorders, including Alzheimer's and disease and schizophrenia. I don't know about this now. See, this makes me a little nervous. This makes me really nervous. And I tell you, when you have an item, something that can mess with the brain and actually can affect your memory, here's what I'm thinking. And you might be thinking the same thing. This could be used as a military weapon. Now that is very frightening. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're in the middle of battle and you have 500,000 soldiers or 300,000 soldiers or whatever it might be on fighting in the battlefield, and you're able then to have this massive flash of light and you make it into a military weapon and you amplify it times a million, and that flash of light is flashed, and then the soldiers forget how to use their weapons. That's scary. That, I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. That has very serious consequences if it gets in the wrong hand. If that type of technology gets in the wrong hands, whoo, Lord. I mean, can you say best mark? Sure, best mark. Okay. Yeah, like amnesia. Whiskey Girl says in TikTok, like it really is. It's like amnesia, because remember, in the lab, they taught these mice a skill, whatever skill that was. Then they did this flash into the hippocampus. It affected their part of their brain, or the memory of the hippocampus of the brain, to where it stores memory. And the mice completely forgot what it was trained. James Merle, I am not going to. Okay, I'll just say this, and I'm not saying that I'm against the left or the right, but James Merle, I gotta say, that was funny. James Merle says we can use this technology on the radical left. Okay, there we go. So that's the only. And you can say, well, we can use this technology on the radical right. There we go. So got to make it even. Got to make it even and fair. But yeah, it's. Well, the long-term memory can be affected itself as well, because they're looking into it helping schizophrenia, as well as another disease, another horrible disease that's. I tell you, this is really concerning to me. I think it's great that it could help Alzheimer's, and I think it's great that it could possibly help schizophrenia. But I think that anytime you have a technology like this, you got to guard it. I mean, you have to guard it, but stronger than Fort Knox, because inevitably, someone who now knows the technology in Japan could easily be introduced to some really bad players in the world and be tempted to make a lot of money. And boy, that's, yeah, or PTSD. Yeah, Mystic Autistic said even PTSD. Certainly. I mean, but when you start altering memory, I don't know. I'm not for sure. By the way, for those of you who are Twilight fans, I know there's a lot of you out there who loves Twilight. Nothing. Twilight's was a pretty cool series. It was a cool movie, cool movies, I should say. Kristen Stewart You know, Kristen Stewart, she was Isabella. Well, she is now, and some of you may have heard of this, and good for her. Good for her. If this is what she wants to do, some of you, you might want to contact Kristen Stewart and tell her you want to be on her show, because this is according to New York Daily News, is reporting that Kristen Stewart is developing a gay, and this is there with their term, a gay ghost hunting reality TV show. You heard me right. I know some of you, listen to me. Kristen Stewart is developing a gay ghost hunting reality TV show. And it's a paranormal, and this is what it's called, a paranormal romp in a queer space. I'm not really a big fan on the terminology there, but that's the name of the TV show, a paranormal romp in a queer space. I have a feeling that probably will be relabeled or renamed. But anyway, Kristen Stewart is gunning for a gay ghost. The star of the Twilight movies is developing a gay ghost hunting reality TV series, a project she describes as, quote, a paranormal romp in a queer space. Now, Stewart revealed her plans to join the celebrity ghost hunting trend in a recent interview with The New Yorker. She says, quote, gay people love pretty things. Most people love pretty things. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. Come on, Kristen. Anyway, the 31-year-old BAFTA award winner told the magazine in an interview published Tuesday, so we are aiming for a richness, unquote. So she says Stewart, who recently announced that she was engaged to her longtime girlfriend, Dylan Meyer, said that she's also writing a television series with her soon-to-be wife. Meyer is a fellow actress and screenwriter. Her latest screenwriting project, the Amy Poehler-directed comedy drama Moxie, was released on Netflix in March. Now, Stewart, whose performances as Princess Diana in Spencer has been generating early Oscar buzz, is not only the famous face to make for a foray in the unknown. Pop star Demi Lovato, Grammy-nominated singer and self-described activist and UFO experiencer, she says, brings viewers on a road trip in search of definite answers to some of the biggest questions about extraterrestrial life in the Peacock series Unidentified with Demi Lovato. So, fellow pop sensation Keisha has also recently announced a new TV series in which she plans to explore the unexplored. Conjuring Keisha is scheduled to premiere next year on Discovery Plus. Now, over the course of my life, I've always been drawn to the supernatural and the spiritual realm, Keisha said in a statement. On this new show, I will bring along my friends to some of the most mysterious paranormal hotspots to explore with me. And we will explore life's great mysteries and aim to catch something never before seen on camera. My hope is to show that the supernatural isn't just a thing of myths and fables. Okay. Well, congratulations to you guys. But if you've been watching the paranormal community, we've been doing that for a long time now. I mean, they act like, oh, we're going to be the first, and we're going to show you never been seen. Okay, good luck. I don't know. It's one of the, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, good luck. Good luck. I hope that, I hope that you have fun. But I mean, seriously, something like this, it's not like we haven't been doing this. Now, this article is really cool. If you want to volunteer, listen to this. There's a very cool volunteer program that you can volunteer for right now. NASA, which I'm a big NASA fan, seeks volunteers, no joke, to spend 60 days in bed. You heard me right, folks. I'm telling you, NASA is seeking volunteers to spend 60 days in bed. Now, this makes sense because as a NASA nerd, I went to space camp as a kid. Come on, I'm a big nerd. But this is the second challenge in the study of the artificial gravity rest bed, which is being carried out at the German Aerospace Center in Cologne. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, is working with the German Space Agency and the European Space Agency to find 24 women to participate in a project in which they will have to spend 2 months in bed. This is a new step in the study of artificial gravity bed rest, which was already carried out in March 2021, but only with men. So the experiment will take place at the German Aerospace Center in Cologne, and aerospace companies will pay each of them, well, it's not volunteer, $19,000 for it. Well, heck, that's not a volunteer. You're asking people to get paid to spend 2 months in bed. They're asking for women. $19,000 for 2 months. That's a heck of a lot of money for 2 months to just chill out in bed. Well, okay. So someone said, well, how may do it? Hold on. People are saying, well, tell us how we do it. Hold on. But that's pretty, $19,000 for 2 months to stay in bed. Oh, Lord Jesus. With the help of this experiment, scientists want to learn about the effect of special modes of movement on the human body. Now, first of all, they want to find out what can happen to the body after a trip to Mars. Quote, on behalf of NASA and ESA, the German Aerospace Center, is investigating how a body changes outside of gravity. In addition, on Earth, bed rest imitates this state, and we are looking for people who are part of this experiment, said one of the researchers. Now, they have to eat, exercise, and yes, even shower while lying on their stomachs. And this will force their bodies to adjust as if they were in space. NASA explained in the statement, to enroll in this project, here we go. To enroll in this project, $19,000 for 2 months. The volunteer must be 24 to 55 years old and must be in good health. Also, folks, it says here, no smoking. They would like for you to speak German and be between 153 and 190 centimeters tall. So registration is done through the website of the German Aerospace Center. So if you think that you want to do this, well, go for it. And all information about the project can be found on the official NASA website. Now, as soon as the experience is completed, women will receive for participation the amount indicated in the contract. So there you go, folks. Listen, I mean, you got to go to the official NASA website, and the registration is done through the website of the German Aerospace Center. So you need to Google German Aerospace Center, and the information is there. And again, all the information you can also find on the NASA website. 48 squeezed in, learning German quick. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, though. That really is. I don't know. When you think about that, that's really neat. That really is neat. So there you go. So if you're considering, making $19,000 to chill out in bed and do everything in bed for 2 months, good. That's pretty good. That's pretty. We were talking about NASA and the German aerospace program, that they are seeking volunteers. Right now, they're seeking women, and you can volunteer, and you spend 2 months in bed, and you can pay $19,000 to stay 2 months in bed. Oh, man. You guys know the story of Roswell, right? You probably have, if you're a paranormal fan, Roswell, New Mexico, the huge situation with the belief that either the United States may have shot down a UFO and it crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. Some people believe they may have just had technological problems or whatever it might be, and it crashed. And there was debris found, and there was even people who actually argue that there were the bodies of these grays that were actually found as well. Well, here's an article that you may have never heard of before. And when I found this, I thought, I got to share this with everybody. Philip, I want you to remember this and Google it. Philip James Corso, Corso. Philip James Corso. Listen to this, really cool. He is the officer who examined the anatomy of an alien. Okay. Hold on 1 second. And I'm alien sane. Philip James Corso. He's a lieutenant colonel, and he was a hero of the Second World War and one of the most influential employees of the Pentagon. Throughout his military career, was known as a man of courage and truth. For several years, he worked for the National Security Service. And by the nature of his work, Philip Corso was familiar with the many secrets of the American government. Now, since 1961, Philip Corso worked several times in the secret department of the Pentagon, which was responsible for the preservation of numerous fragments of the crashed alien aircraft. Now, his duties included the task of preventing the disclosure of secrets associated with the incident of Roswell. And one of these secrets, guarded by the American government, is the events associated with the mysterious incident that took place in July of 1947. Now, at that time, Philip Corso was in Roswell as a government inspector and was one of the first to find himself at the crash site of an unidentified object, later identified in secret documents as an alien aircraft. Now, the events that he witnessed, Corso described. So Corso wrote a book. Don't take the Bishop Long's word for it. He wrote a book, and this is a lieutenant colonel that was actually in special intelligence. So in his book, The Day After Roswell, that's the name of his book. Go check it out, The Day After Roswell, which also provides other information gleaned by him from various government documents. Now, on July 6, 1947, Lieutenant Corso arrived at the site of a mysterious object. In a small depression next to the wreckage of the mysterious apparatus, he discovered a small capsule about 1.5 meters long, in which he says there was a dead alien. Now, the aircraft crashed a few kilometers from the American military base, number 509, located near Roswell in the headquarters of New Mexico. Philip Corso, C-O-R-S-O, by the way, became extremely interested in the creature of the capsule, and he began to examine it. Now, in his book, this is what he's saying. The alien lay in a viscous light blue liquid that resembled a jelly-like diesel fuel. He says, and this is what he says in his book, at first moment, it seemed to me that there was a dead child in front of me, but it was not a man, but a strange creature of a small size, Corso recalls. The creature was barely 1 meter, 20 centimeters tall and resembled a man, but had many differences. Hands and feet were very thin, and the hands only had 4 fingers. There was no thumb. On a rather pudgy body stood out a huge head, which is shaped resembling of a light bulb, he says. The chin was barely noticeable. And this is a quote, "Examining the creature, I could not help feeling fear, although I did not quite understand what I should have feared," says Philip Corso. Despite this, Corso was the first to dare to lift the capsule lid and take a closer look at the alien. He says this creature's skin was gray, but Corso believes that it could not have been skin, but some kind of ultra-thin material that was unusually tightly wrapped around the alien's body. Huge almond-shaped eyes, completely devoid of pupils, were located on the head somewhat at an angle, and the posts converged at a tiny nose tip. The nose barely protruded from the surface of the face and consisted of nostrils alone. He says the alien's sunken cheeks could only be seen from the side. Ears resembling human ones were missing from the alien. No eyebrows or any characteristic of a person was observed in the face. The unusually small mouth looked more like a small slit, and like the nose stood out very faintly on the face, and all the creatures of which occupied an insignificant part of the human skull. Now, as Philip Corso recalls, although the alien body was dead, there was no noticeable damage to his body. He said, "I could not see a single wound on the body. There was no blood, and all parts of the body looked intact." So in the early 60s, while working in the Pentagon, Philip Corso came across a report by doctors from Walter Reed Military Hospital, who in 1947, shortly after the Roswell incident, performed an autopsy on an alien. Having carefully examined the corpse of an alien, scientists made an unusually important conclusion. The chemical composition of the tissues of an alien creature, although different from ours, but at the same time does not contain any elements unknown to modern science. So the report further states that the creature, like humans, has a heart and lungs, but their structure and functioning are significantly different from those of humans. The heart of an alien is much larger than a human, and it contracts, according to pathologists, much less frequently. It works in a manner of an ordinary muscle pump and distills liquid, which in its composition resembles lymph, though rather primitive, circle of blood circulation. Now, based on a large volume of the heart and lungs, the doctors assumed that the creature had a rather weak metabolic rate. And in addition, according to physiologists, the body of this alien has never experienced great physical exertion. So the lungs of the alien creature were also quite large. Their main function was the accumulation of air and its gradual consumption. Scientists have compared the work of an alien's lungs with how a camel stores water in advance and then uses it as needed. Proceeding from this, the doctors assumed that this creature had little need for air, and the opportunity to breathe was not often provided. And the alien's skeleton was also different from that of a human. The structure of the skeleton was fibrous, and the bones themselves are much thinner than those of the human skeleton. That is really, really, really cool. Now, it talks more about the skin and the protective layer, the alien skull. They talk about how it's disproportionately large, its bones very soft, elastic compared to human ones, resembled rubber in softness. The brains. The alien's brains turned out to be much larger than a human, was extremely large for this creature, with a delicate and weak structure of the body and skeleton. The brain was divided into 4 sections, or spheres, the functions of which were difficult to determine. And Philip Corso believes that the U.S. military performed not only a superficial examination of an autopsy, but also a detailed study of the alien's remains, as well as the comprehensive study of the aircraft. That to me, that's really, really cool. Now, Corso says that many devices and were developed based on the technology of the alien ship, which are still widely used in science and technology to this day. And again, you can say, well, I just disagree with this. I don't believe it. And that's fine. You're entitled to that belief. But I would strongly encourage you to at least check it out, find out for yourself, go read the book, and then you can kind of decide from there. Again, the book is called The Day After Roswell. The Day After Roswell. And Philip is Philippe, and then the last name is Corso, Corso. Okay, so you can Google that and you can read it. This is a person who has some legitimacy there. I mean, he worked in intelligence, and so it's not somebody who just had no knowledge of intelligence. I mean, that's when you get someone who writes a book like this and they are intelligent and this is what they did, and he describes what he saw. That kind of makes it. You can read the book, and then you can say, nope, I don't believe it, or you can say, okay, I believe it. It's whatever you decide. But you got to remember, he was a lieutenant colonel. So remember this. And when you're a lieutenant colonel, you work very hard to obtain that rank. That's not something that you just accidentally are given. You work hard to get it. And you're not going to do something so careless to ruin your reputation unless it is something that you feel so strongly about. And he obviously feels very strongly about that. So, and you're right. And Moonstar makes a good point. Monstar Sports and Entertainment says our technological leaps since the 60s have been leaps and bounds. That's so true. Makes me wonder if we have some sort of an agreement with them. You know, when you look at technology, and it's really, God, it's so true. When you look at technology, it exploded. I mean, in the 50s, 60s, it's like we went from caveman to space explorers. Really, seriously. I mean, it was that intense. And the technology that we have developed in such a short time, it makes you wonder. It certainly makes you wonder. All right, so I want to thank you. Look, I've had a lot of fun. I have had so much fun, guys. I really have. I've enjoyed this. Every week, every Friday, I come together and I share some things with you. I share these stories, share ideas. I teach about demonology. So I will have a guest on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have a couple guests on soon. It may not be next week. It might be the week after. and they work in a hospital. They're nurses. And they have some stories to tell you guys. Whoa, they have some stories. So it might be next week. I will have to figure out the schedule, but I'll believe me, I'll let you know. Make sure you go to my TikTok page, Bishop James Long, or my Facebook page, facebook.com/Bishop James Long, and you'll see what we're going to be covering. I'll start putting some videos up there, let you guys know, hey, we're going to be talking about this in the Sacred Division. And I promise you, when you hear some of these stories, these are people who actually work in the hospital. The stories that these are stories that's going to keep you up. I'm just telling you, it's going to keep you up at night. It's going to keep you up at night. It's going to, I mean, it's chills. It's chills. So anyway, for those of you who are on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Twitch, thank you. Thank you all. Thank all on TikTok and Spreaker. Thank you for being here. I do want to appreciate so much the KGRA-DB broadcast for having me on brand new. So really excited to be a part of this family. I'm really looking forward to a lot more shows. I've been doing this for a long time. So we're going to have all kinds of topics. I'm really hoping one day I can go live. I am talking to the Bel Air. I know Kristen. Kristen owns the Bel Air House in Bel Air, Ohio. And she's already told me, Bishop, whenever you want to do a live show, the Bel Air House has been on a haunted story, my haunted story. I mean, it's really, really it's very haunted. And so I'm going to try to get up there in Bel Air, Ohio, and actually do a live show right here for you guys. And yeah, that's pretty intense, really intense. Don't forget, Bishop James Long is the website. I want you to make sure you please go to Bishop James Long and check it out. Remember, don't forget the support Officer Gage. Please don't forget that. Remember, guys, I tell you all the time that your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and never let anyone tell you otherwise. God bless everybody, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday for Bible study, or right here, same time, same channel for the Sacred Division. All right, and I hope you guys have had a great time. I know I've had a good time, and Bill, I appreciate you jumping behind on the scenes there and producing the show. So on the YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. For those of you on Spreaker, I'm going to say God bless you guys and have a beautiful, beautiful evening for those of you on Spreaker. There we go. And now we are finished. We are all done. TikTok, you're still running. And Bill is on behind the scenes. You guys don't get to see Bill behind the scenes, but he's there. He's running around there, and I promise you, he's having a good time. Don't forget, everybody. Don't forget that Andrea Perrin is ready. She is ready to rock and roll. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you go on her page on the KGRA DB website. Don't forget to do that. For those of you who don't know, Andrea is a wonderful, wonderful person, and I think you're going to love her. She's just the best. So anyway, I'm going to jump off here, and I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful evening. And again, do something good for yourself. You deserve it. All right, everybody. God bless, and we'll talk to you guys a little later. Bye-bye. The Sacred Division has been brought to you by Bishop Long's online paranormal course. Learn demonology, angelology, paranormal studies, and genealogy. It's 100% online, and you learn at your own pace. Please go to www.bishopjameslong.com and click on the paranormal course link.